It's one of the most sacred locations in all of Kentucky, and it was specifically built to honor fallen Kentuckians.
Situated in the middle of the Frankfort Cemetery in Frankfort, Kentucky, sits what is called the State Mound.
The area sits on a small hill a few hundred yards from the grave of Daniel Boone and the overlook of the Kentucky State Capitol building.
In the center of the area is the War Memorial Monument. Surrounding the monument are various graves and smaller monuments.
We're going to show you each section and tell the stories of who is buried here and what the monuments symbolize. Hey everybody, this is Colonel Carson with Family Tree Nuts, and we got
Jamison Cable, the Kentucky History Podcast.
And we're at the State Mound in Frankfort Cemetery. Jamison, let's start with the large monument here.
The main monument was built in 1850 and is 65 feet tall, and it weighs 150 tons.
It is made of granite and Italian marble, and at the top of the monument is a figure entitled Victory.
It was constructed to stand over 17 graves of Kentucky soldiers that died at the Battle of Buena Vista during the Mexican War.
The 17 soldiers were buried on July the 20th, 1847, in a ceremony with a eulogy by John C. Breckinridge, who was later a congressman, a United States vice president, and a Confederate Secretary of War.
All four sides of the monument have engravings. At the base of each side is a display, and the tower lists battles that Kentuckians have fought, and the officers that lost their lives in that battle.
On the north side, the base says, Military Monument, erected by Kentucky, AD 1850. From top to bottom, the monument lists Mexico, Lieutenant J.W. Powell. Boonesboro, no names. Harmer's Defeat, Captain J.M. McMurdy. Wayne's Campaign, Colonel John Hardin. Monterey, Major P.N. Barber. Buena Vista, Colonel William R. McKee. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Clay. Captain William T. Willis. Adjutant E. P. Vaughn. Raisin, Captain John Allen. Major Benjamin Graves. Captain John Wolford. Captain N.G.S. Hart. Captain James Meade. Captain Robert Edwards. Captain Virgil McCracken. Captain William Price. Captain John Edmondson. Captain John Simpson. Captain Pascal Hickman. Lieutenant John Williamson.
On the south side, the base is the coat of arms of Kentucky, with the motto, United we stand, divided we fall. At the base is inscribed, Kentucky has erected this column in gratitude, equally to her officers and soldiers. From top to bottom, the monument lists Cerro Gordo, New Orleans, Massasinawa, St. Clair's Defeat, Colonel William Odom, Estill's Defeat, Captain James Estill, Lieutenant South, Tippecanoe, Colonel Joseph H. Davies, Colonel Abram Owen, Captain Jacob Warwick, Fort Meigs, Colonel William Dudley, Captain John C. Morrison, Captain Christopher Irvin, Captain Joseph Clark, Captain Thomas Lewis, Blue Licks, Colonel John Todd, Colonel Stephen Trigg, Major Silas Harlan, Major William McBride, Captain Edward Bulger, Captain John Gordon, Captain Isaac Boone.
On the east side, the base says, by order of legislature, the name Colonel J.J. Hardin of the 1st Regiment Illinois Infantry, a son of Kentucky, who fell at the Battle of Buena Vista, is inscribed hereon. From top to bottom, the column is blank until you get to the bottom section, which states, United States Navy Lieutenant John Grunnell Talbot, drowned at Kalahikai, December 19, 1870. Lieutenant Hugh Wilson McKee, killed in Korea, spelled with a C, June 11, 1871. Master Alfred Foray, drowned off Greytown, April 12, 1872, all in the performance of duty.
On the west side, the base says the principal battles and campaigns in which her sons devoted their lives to their country are inscribed on the bands, and beneath the same are the names of her officers who fell. The names of her soldiers who died for their country are too numerous to be inscribed on any column. From top to bottom, the monument list: Battle of the Thames, Colonel William Whitley, Captain Elijah Craig. Indian Wars, Colonel John Floyd, Colonel Nathan Hart, Colonel Walker Daniel, Colonel William Christian, Colonel Richard Calloway, Colonel James Herod, Colonel William Lynn, Major Evan Shelby, Major Bland Ballard, Captain Christopher Irvin, Captain William McAfee, Captain John Kennedy, Captain Christian Krebs, Captain Rogers, Captain William Bryant, Captain Tipton, Captain Chapman, Captain McCracken, Captain James Shelby, Captain Samuel Grant, Surveyor Hancock Taylor, Surveyor Willis Lee, Little Bighorn, by order of the legislature. The name of the Lieutenant John J. Crittenden, 20th U.S. Infantry, a brave Kentuckian who was killed in the Battle of the Little Bighorn on 25th of June 1876, while performing his duty, is inscribed hereon. Raisin, Lieutenant Robert Logan, Lieutenant Thomas Graves, Lieutenant Thomas Overton, Lieutenant Francis Chin, Ensign Levi Wells, Ensign Shahan, Surgeon Alex Montgomery, Surgeon Thomas C. Davis, Surgeon John Irvin, Surgeon Thomas McIlvaine.
Surrounding the monument are the graves of men who died in the Mexican War.
Close to the monument are 8 large marble graves, and the east side has smaller headstones. The large graves include
Lieutenant Colonel Henry Clay Jr., second in command of the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers and the son of the great compromiser Henry Clay.
Carrie H. Fry, who served in the Mexican War and was a brevet brigadier general during the Civil War.
First Lieutenant George N. Cardwell, who served as an adjutant in the Mexican War with the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Colonel William R. McKee, who commanded the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Captain William T. Willis, who was a prominent lawyer and commanded Company F of the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Adjutant Edward M. Vaughn, who served with the 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Colonel James W. Moss, who was the commander of Company A and the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers. Later was a colonel in command of the same unit in the Civil War, which was part of the Orphan Brigade. Died as a POW.
Lieutenant Colonel Ezekiel H. Field, who served the 1st Kentucky Cavalry and at the time of his death, a Kentucky senator-elect.
The smaller headstones that lay in a semicircle around the monument include
Private Yves J. Thoreau, who served with Company I with the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Captain William E. Maxey, who served with the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers. Maxey had been reduced from captain to the rank of orderly sergeant, and while opening a store chest, a pistol dropped from his breast pocket that discharged, and Maxey was shot in the groin. He died 2 days later.
4th Sergeant Henry Wolfe, who served with Kentucky Company B, 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Private W.C. Green, who served with Company G, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private James Seston, whose name may be Leston, and who served with Milam's Company of the 1st Kentucky Volunteers.
Corporal Henry Edwards, who served with Company I and the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Private Major Updike Jr., who served with Company B, 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Private Robert Latta, who served with the 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private L.B. Samuel Bartlett, who served with Company B, 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Private William Blackwell, who served with Company B, 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Private John F. Ellingwood, who served with Company C, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private John Sanders, who served with Company C, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private C.B. Thompson, who served with Company E, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private Enoch Bruton, who served either with the 1st Kentucky Cavalry or the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers and was killed in camp near Camargo, Mexico.
Sergeant Tilford Dozer, who served with Company E, 2nd Indiana Volunteers. It is reported that his body was pierced by Mexican lances 27 times. Clearly there's more to the story.
Private John A. Scott, who served in Company C, 1st Kentucky Cavalry. He was captured and was a POW during the war.
Private Ambrose W. Hampton, who served in Company B, 2nd Kentucky Volunteers. He was one of the soldiers who carried the body of Colonel W.R. McKee off the battlefield.
Private Harvey Trotter, who served in Company F, 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
Private N. Cincinnatus Ramey, who served in Company K, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private Thomas Weigert, who served with Company I, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private Clement Jones, who served with Company K, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private Henry Carty, who served with Company K, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private William Thwaites, who served with Company K, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Corporal William W. Bayless, who served with Company K, 1st Kentucky Cavalry.
Private Abram Goodpaster, who served with Company I, 2nd Kentucky Volunteers.
First Lieutenant Joseph W. Powell, who served with the 2nd Kentucky Volunteers. He died of fever.
Captain Oliver Hazard Perry Beard, who served with the 1st Kentucky Volunteers. He survived the war and operated a livery stable in Lexington.
Colonel Thomas T. Hawkins, who served in the Mexican War and with the Kentucky Regiment that invaded Cuba in 1850.
Cyrenius W. Gilmore, who survived the Battle of Buena Vista and later served as a state senator from Pulaski County.
Lieutenant Edwin F. Hogg, who served in the Union Army during the Civil War. He caught typhoid and died near Vicksburg, Mississippi in 1863. Major and Dr. John G. Kennan, who served as a surgeon with the 3rd Division of the Union Army. He died in service on August 12, 1864.
Captain Albert G. Bacon, who served with the 3rd Kentucky Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. He was killed on December 28, 1861, in a hand-to-hand fight with General Nathan Bedford Forrest.
One headstone is currently missing, and perhaps it is one that has been replaced by a newer headstone.
Preston S. Lowborough, Colonel, Kentucky Militia, Adjutant General of Kentucky.
One of the older headstones is extremely unreadable.
There's also a few more modern graves here. They are
PFC David Lee Martin Jr., who served with the 1st BDE 101st Airborne Division and died in Vietnam in 1867.
PFC Thomas A. Harp, who served with Company E, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division. He was killed during an ambush in Vietnam.
Corporal Frank Edward Bronner, who served with Company C, 6th Battalion, 31st Infantry, 9th Infantry Division. He was killed in Vietnam.
Specialist 5, Harvey W. True, who served with Company K, SCH BDE, USA SCS. He wrote the famous poem, The Bivouac of the Dead. The next section that we will take a look at is on the south end of the monument. Here we find the grave of Colonel Theodore O'Hara. O'Hara was born in 1820 in Danville, Kentucky. He studied law with future U.S. Vice President and Confederate States Secretary of War John C. Breckinridge. He served in the Mexican War and obtained the rank of Brevet Major. He served as a colonel in the expedition into Cuba in 1850. O'Hara then served as a journalist in Frankfort and Louisville until 1853. He again attended another expedition into Cuba. After the second attempt also failed, he obtained a commission in the Army as a captain. He was on recruiting duty until he was assigned to Indian fighting in Texas. In 1856, he was forced to resign when he was brought up on charges by Robert E. Lee for drunkenness. He then became an editor of the newspaper in Mobile, Alabama. When the Civil War broke out, O'Hara joined up as a lieutenant colonel in the 12th Alabama Infantry and served at the Battle of Shiloh and Stones River. O'Hara died in 1864 and was buried in Columbus, Georgia. In 1874, his remains were moved to this spot to be near his fellow Mexican War veterans. What he is most known for is his poem called The Bivouac of the Dead. It is disputed as to when he wrote the poem, but he said that he wrote it to honor his fellow Kentuckians that gave the ultimate sacrifice in the Mexican War. Some say he was present to deliver this poem when many of these soldiers were reinterred here, but that is disputed by some. The poem lives on forever and graces many military monuments and is even on the gateway to the Arlington National Cemetery. On the back of this monument are two sections of his famous poem. The muffled drum's sad roll has beat, the soldier's last tattoo. No more on life's parade shall meet that brave and fallen few. On fame's eternal camping ground, their silent tents are spread, and glory guards with solemn round the bivouac of the dead. Rest on, embalmed and sainted dead, dear as the blood ye gave. No impious footsteps here shall tread the herbage of your grave, nor shall your glory be forgot, while fame her record keeps, or honor points that hallowed spot where valor proudly sleeps.
The names of every Kentuckian that has fallen on the battlefield.
The next section to discuss here at the State Mounds is the semicircle and straight war monuments that not only give a brief description of each war that Kentuckians have fought in, but also the names of each and everyone that have fallen in those conflicts.
The plaques honor the War for Independence,
The War of 1812,
the Texas War of Independence, and the Mexican War.
the Civil War,
The Spanish-American War,
World War I,
World War II,
the Korean War,
the Vietnam War,
the Persian Gulf War,
At this time, there is not yet a plaque for the War on Terror.
Also listed are all the names of the Kentuckians who fell during each conflict.
he killed Tecumseh. At the far south of the State Mound sits the grave of Vice President and Colonel Richard Mentor Johnson. Johnson was born in 1780 in Beargrass Station in modern-day Louisville. But his parents were present at Bryan Station during the siege by Native Americans in 1782. It is said that during the siege, an arrow pierced the crib where young Richard laid, narrowly missing the young infant. The family settled the Great Crossing area in modern-day Scott County, Kentucky, and Richard attended Transylvania University to become a lawyer. Soon he was elected to the Kentucky and then the U.S. House of Representatives. And when the War of 1812 broke out, he served in the Battle of the Thames. He reported that he himself killed the famous Shawnee Chief Tecumseh. Richard used this claim the rest of his life for his political ambitions. After the war, he returned to politics and rose to importance in the Democratic Party. He became a favorite of President Andrew Jackson. When Jackson's protege, Martin Van Buren, was elected president, Richard Johnson was his vice president. Richard's life wasn't without major controversy. He lived openly in a common law relationship with a former family slave who was an octoroon named Julia Chen. An octoroon is someone with 1/8 African ancestry. His relationship infuriated many wealthy Southern plantation owners. Another interesting fact about Richard Johnson is that he was a pallbearer for Daniel Boone when he was moved to this cemetery in 1845. He now lies just a few hundred yards from Boone. In his final years, while still serving in political offices, he was accused of having dementia when he struggled to perform his duties. He died at age 70 and was buried here in 1850, just about the time that the monument was built.
His diary gave detailed insights about the Mexican War. On the north side of the State Mound is the gravesite of Brevet Major Philip Norborn Barber. Barber was born in 1813 and was a graduate of West Point. He served on the western frontier in Louisiana and fought in the Seminole Wars in Florida. In 1845, he was transferred to Texas and was there for the outbreak of the Mexican War. During his time in the war, he kept a detailed diary so he could share with his wife his experiences. He gave a detailed account of the Battle of Palo Alto and Resaca de la Palma. His last entry was on September 20th, 1846, because the next day he was killed in the Battle of Monterey.
To the shores of Tripoli. Our last but not least section of the State Mound is the grave of the hero of Derna, United States Marine Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon. O'Bannon was born in Virginia in 1776. His father, William, was a captain in the Revolutionary War. His uncle was General John Neville, who was the commander of Fort Pitt. His first cousin was Presley Neville, who was the aide-de-camp to the Marquis de Lafayette. O'Bannon joined the Marine Corps on January 18, 1801, and was assigned as a first lieutenant on the USS Argus. During the Barbary Pirate War, O'Bannon led a detachment of 7 Marines, 2 sailors, and an air force under Prince Hamid on a frontal assault on the city of Derna and the Tripoli area of modern-day Libya. O'Bannon's force was successful, and he was the first American to raise the United States flag over foreign soil in wartime. This battle is where the Marines' hymn gets its second line, "To the shores of Tripoli." Prince Hamid was so impressed with O'Bannon's bravery that he awarded him a Mameluke sword as a gesture of respect. This sword has been carried by all Marine officers since Commandant Archibald Henderson adopted it in 1825. O'Bannon resigned from the Marine Corps in 1807 and moved to Kentucky. There he took up politics. He served in the Kentucky State Legislature and the Kentucky State Senate. O'Bannon died in 1850 at age 74 and was buried near his home in Pleasureville, Shelby County, Kentucky. His remains were moved here in 1919. O'Bannon's legacy lives on to all Marines. Semper Fi, Marines.
This concludes our tour of the State Mound in Frankfort Cemetery in Frankfort, Kentucky, the state capital.
It is hallowed ground that is jam-packed full of Kentucky military history.
It's a place that few Kentuckians even know exists, but we plan to remedy that with this video. We encourage everybody to make the pilgrimage here to pay their respects.
You will be rewarded with a deep pride in the United States and Kentucky.
God bless our veterans.
God bless America.
And God bless Kentucky.
And remember, family tree nuts, let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.